time for the final word in sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes.
Dukes,
you've been waiting all day. So join the show now by calling 800-956-7266.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Good to have you back with us on this Monday night. Good to have Professor Tom Hayes back in the studios, along with yours truly, Phil Kornbluth, and Will Pelagic, and Brian Leonard back after a long weekend. 800-956-7266, the number as we begin a brand new week. And if all goes well, we'll have everybody playing football across the state this weekend.
Thankfully.
We'll have some high school football for you as well. In fact, I think some games are going to be played tonight as schools try to make up for the games missed last week. And let me say at the outset, we are thinking about all of you in the PD area and up in that region of Pageland and Union County and all up in there that's getting so much flooding coming off the PD River. Well, I just talked to somebody in Myrtle Beach. Myrtle Beach is okay.
Well, they said that Coastal, their campus is still closed the rest of the week, though, unfortunately, in Conway.
Well, in terms of, flooding and things of that nature, I guess around the Waccamaw River, Conway has a lot of flooding.
Yeah.
And on through the PD region. But the point is, thinking about you and hoping that everything goes well for you the rest of the week as you try to clean up and put this behind you. I mean, I came back from Atlanta and from Clemson to Columbia last night. It was like really in my area, nothing happened except for some rain and, very few limbs down or anything like that. So feel very lucky here in this part of the state. But we can focus on what happened this past weekend. Thankfully, everything went off without a hitch at Clemson as far as the weather is concerned. They got the game in without a drop. And you know what? The nearly 80,000 who were there, they listened because they made us leave the press box at 6 o'clock so that we could get our cars out of the media lot, which was going to be locked about 6:15. And so I left the press box at 6 o'clock right on the dot. There were no tailgaters.
Done.
No one was on the Clemson campus in my area as I was walking back to my car. So they listened and they cleaned up and they got out of town. So it was well done by the Clemson folks to get that game in. They got another victory, and they were dominant on defense, of course, except for one little series after a turnover. Offensively, they did pretty much as they wanted to do, guys. Still some concern in Dabo Sweeney's mind about the play of the offensive line at time. He was upset about the fact that they had it first and goal. It took them 4 plays to knock it in from like the 2-yard line. Little things like that were irritant to him. But overall, I think he feels like they had a good ball game. They took a step forward, and they're ready to go now as they get ready for the ACC.
Well, the thing I think that would concern me, it probably is what concerns folks nationally, is the fact that I don't know if they're very sure how good this Clemson team really is. And I think a lot of their conference brethren aren't exactly helping them out. The fact that the Associated Press poll coming out on Sunday has Clemson ranked 3rd, whereas they were ranked 2nd going in, and they basically didn't do anything other than a close call at Texas A&M to kind of warrant a backslide. I think there are people who are wondering just how good this offense will be when they face a legitimate defense. When that will come, who knows? Maybe it'll be in November when they face Boston College. Maybe Florida State gets its act together by the end of October. Don't hold your breath. But at the same point, it's like it comes back to what I was saying at the end of this week, or the end of this past week, is that I don't know. We've seen it in the past over the course of the last couple of years. Clemson's been able to weather a loss and still get itself to the college football playoff. I don't know with this schedule if Clemson can weather a loss and get to the college football playoff. I really don't.
It'll be tough, but after watching the first few minutes of the Alabama game, I know one team is going to be in there. It's almost like Ole Miss say, see, we're going to do it again. Hotty-toddy, throw a bomb against you, and made Alabama mad. And they just stomped them at Ole Miss. That is a juggernaut right now. With that quarter,
62 unanswered points.
Unbelievable.
Just as easy as you would want to do it. And you're right. It's like they made them mad. Okay, you dare score on us. You dare throw on us on the first play of the game. You think you caught us napping? Okay, have some of this.
And you think about a school like Ohio State, who weathered the storm of not necessarily having Urban Meyer with them through the first 3 weeks, you wouldn't have known whether he was gone or not.
You know, you bring up Ohio State. Urban. He just
doesn't know.
Shut up.
He doesn't know.
So, you know, he gets the interview on ESPN last night with Tom Rinaldi. And I've got it figured out now. When you're an athlete who goes astray, you do an interview with Tom Rinaldi. When you are a celebrity who goes astray, you do an interview with Oprah. You just sit on different couches. At least Rinaldi didn't have his piano on his back playing music in the background this time. And I'll give him credit. He asked some very direct, pointed questions, and he didn't let him off the hook. But how many times can you say, I can't remember, I don't remember, when you flat out stood in front of a bunch of media people in July in Chicago and just lied your butt off, and you've been backtracking ever since? You know, if college football had any ethics whatsoever, and we know it doesn't, the committee, if Ohio State is in position to make the playoffs, the committee would penalize them for behavior unbecoming a human being.
Are there any women on that committee anymore? I know Condoleezza Rice was there for a while.
Sure, they have to have one.
I think there is one member. I think the media member. There is a professor at Arizona State University, Paola Boivin, former newspaper reporter and columnist for the Arizona Republic. She's a professor now at Arizona State University. I would have to think that she would be a very vocal voice, I would say, in that room. And again, it's.
Do you think they'd hold it against Ohio State?
No,
I don't know.
I really don't think they would. But here's the real weird part is that the Rinaldi interview, the 56-minute press conference that happened earlier today, I don't understand how people inside that room in Ohio State can look at that man and say this man is fit to lead.
He is actually saying that the investigation by Ohio State that all those people at Ohio State signed off on is wrong. For example, when it comes to the text messages in his phone. But here is my response to that. The text messages to me mean nothing because his wife knew. And you can't tell me as close of a relationship that he purportedly has with his wife, somebody he has referred to as a confidant, his closest ally, his closest friend, that she knows that one of his assistants is abusing his wife, that she didn't personally tell him, and he's relying on text messages. No, and his out is, I never saw the text messages.
No, the text messages
because there weren't any.
The text messages don't mean anything in my mind. The actions or the inaction is what means more to me than anything. Whether or not he knew by a text message, he knew. Regardless of how you figure out, he knew.
Well, let's face it. In every football coach, especially if you look at Ohio State and Woody Hayes, we can go to Penn State and Joe Paterno, where they get into the deepest recesses in their mind that they're the most powerful person on that campus, and they're going to test you. Right now, Urban is feeling that bravado. You can tell it. Yeah, you can tell by looking at his face that, yeah, I'll put on this face, but we know who's the most powerful person in Columbus, don't we?
Usually the case. Funny you would mention Woody Hayes because Larry Williams at Tiger Illustrated does a podcast, and his most recent podcast was with former Tiger defensive tackle Dan Benish, who is the uncle of Mitch Hyatt. And his podcast is the story of Dan Benish, who was all set to go to Ohio State until Woody Hayes slugged the Clemson player.
Bauman.
In the Gator Bowl. And he canceled. He was getting ready to hop on a plane. He canceled that trip, called Danny Ford, said, I want to come to Clemson for a visit. Went, signed, played, became a great player. And, of course, that more than anything else led to his nephew becoming a 4-year starter at left tackle.
You mentioned Clemson and recruiting. It just jogs my mind, and the fact that Clemson might be getting some very good basketball recruiting news in the next couple of days involving an in-state prospect.
That's the big recruiting news coming out of the weekend. Josiah James deciding to end it and announce on Wednesday morning, and he's coming off his official visit to Clemson. Certainly leads you to believe that when you cancel an official at Duke, even though he's been there unofficially, your other team is Tennessee, but you're coming off an official to Clemson, and you suddenly decide to go ahead and have your announcement.
If you read the tea leaves,
I think it looks very good for the Tigers, which would be a wonderful recruiting win for Brad Brownell after missing out on Zion Williamson.
Phone lines are open, 800-956-7266. Your thoughts on the weekend and the week ahead.
Sports Talk is the sports talk show of Main Street, South Carolina. From the coast to the mountains, we cover it all.
You know, it's weird, Corn. We've been talking about kind of where South Carolina is in this now having to play only 11 games. It seemed like Will Muschamp on his Thursday coaches show seemed pretty defiant about, not wanting to schedule a game during that 20th week and also keeping that December 1st weekend open. Do you think South Carolina really needs to schedule a 12th game as we sit here going into basically only their third game of the season?
That's a good question. It depends on what you're looking for. You're looking for the financial gain of another home game and what that means to your revenue. Are you looking at a situation where another win can enhance your postseason positioning regarding a bowl game? The difference between going to the Music City Bowl or going back to Tampa, or maybe even higher than that. I mean, yeah, I think you want to play. I think you're a football coach, you're a football player. I think you want to play. So I think they should do everything they can. Louisville has an open week on the 20th. I'd schedule Louisville. They look like crap. I'm serious.
Now they look
88
like crap.
passing yards in their win over Western Kentucky this past weekend. Speaking of that, let me pass along a few notes. And we got time for your calls. Love to hear from you about the Clemson game this past weekend. Anything else around college football over the weekend? How about the Arkansas loss to North Texas with the fake? How do you fake a fair catch? How do you fool people that
this is
faking
how.
a fair catch?
This is how you tell the referees before the game, hey, we have this trick play. We're going to kind of fake a fair catch, but be watching for us. Don't make sure that you see it and then just play it like that.
But I mean, how do you though? How do you, as the receiving person, because you have to wave
right
to show a fair catch? So how do the players running down the field not see the guy not waving and not lower the boom?
You're undisciplined.
Well, Chad Morris learned a cold lesson right there with that one.
SMU had a great fake, too, that didn't work because the guy threw the ball forward on the kickoff return. The second guy, maybe Debo will try that, where the second guy lies down in the end zone and the kicking team doesn't see him, and he gets up, and the guy throws a pass, hits him dead on the money. Unfortunately, the pass is about 3 yards ahead of him, and the referees were right there saying illegal forward pass.
And Clemson fell victim to the double pass.
Yeah, they did. They fell asleep. Some other notes from over the weekend from checking post-game reports. The attendance for that game in Nashville between Virginia and Ohio, 5,438 announced attendance.
Friends and family.
Virginia's quarterback was good, though. Bryce Perkins, 25 of 30 for 379, 3 touchdowns in that win. Georgia Tech this weekend for Clemson, they lost to Pitt, still rushed for 320 yards. So, but you know what? Nobody really knows how to defend the triple option better than Clemson.
Right.
I watched them against Georgia Southern. Those guys, Georgia Southern almost never was able to run the full option with a pitch because Clemson's defensive ends are so old. They've seen it so many times, Farrell and Bryant and whoever's playing out there. They're not fooled. They had their eyes in the right place. They played their positions extremely well. How about this in a couple of weeks? This could be an issue. Syracuse quarterback Eric Dungy had to come out of the game against Florida State suffering from blurred vision. His replacement, Tommy DeVito, ACC Rookie of the Week, 144 yards passing and a touchdown.
And they still beat Florida State. I watched that entire game, and I swear, Florida State has to be the worst coached Division I FBS Power 5 program that I've seen in the last 5 years.
A lot of people are saying that now.
Yeah,
I'm shocked. I mean, listen, I'm
not.
I thought Florida State would pick it up under Willie Taggart, and it's only 3 games in, and you shouldn't judge a coach in his first year too harshly. I know a lot of people are because Florida State has high standards, but they are a joke right now. Almost the whole state of Florida is a joke.
Well,
except for UCF.
Here's the thing.
Except for the defending national champion.
Here's the thing about Florida State. When a team has been on top for so long, teams that really couldn't stand them, they're not giving them any surcease. I mean, they're stomping Florida State when they get a chance.
Let's see what else was good. Big offense in that BC Wake Forest game. 524 yards for BC, 512 for Wake. BC's quarterback Brown, 304 passing yards, 5 touchdowns. Dylan Rush for 185. That's going to be tough up there. That might be the one that Clemson's going to have to really deal with in the cold in November in Boston. Hartman, the quarterback for Wake, the kid from Oceanside Collegiate, 214 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Matt Colburn out of Dutch Fork at 117 yards and a touch. And let's see who else did big stuff. Mississippi State had 607 yards against Louisiana. Nick Fitzgerald had 350. Missouri. I know you were sweating this one.
Dude.
Look at these numbers. 608 yards for Missouri. They allowed 614.
It's the worst defensive performance in the history of the school.
Larry Roundtree rushed for 168. Drew Lock, who is the real deal.
He's good.
He is the real deal.
375,
3 touchdowns. Purdue quarterback David Blau,
who's their backup,
572 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Backup quarterback at a Big Ten school. I'm telling you, if Jake Bentley does not throw for 450 yards and 5 touchdowns against Missouri, then he is garbage.
You know, Jake Bentley leads the country in
passing efficiency.
No, completions per game. Completions average per game. I believe I tweeted that out.
It's because they had to throw it 50 times against Georgia because they fell behind by 21.
A couple of more notes. Kyle Shermer, who the Gamecocks will see, 326 passing yards and a touch against Notre Dame. Kalijah Lipscomb, watch for him Saturday. You'll be in Nashville.
I will.
11 catches. Tennessee had 512 yards in its win over UTEP. And Kentucky, 528 yards in the win over Murray State. Terry Wilson, the new quarterback, 19 of 25, 163 yards and 80 yards rushing.
Watch out for the hot chicken as well.
So you look at what's ahead for South Carolina. Vanderbilt is not going to be a light touch.
They're not slouches.
In Nashville.
That Notre Dame game showed me a lot.
Yeah, they hung in. They were behind. They were down 13-0. They came back. They made it close.
It showed a lot of fight, which is hard to do in South Bend.
South Carolina's got to win that game.
Well, here's the
to have any kind of a decent season, they've got to win that game.
They can win the next 2.
Here's the key point to the Vandy game.
3, really.
To Vandy's pluses,
4.
They will be fired up against South Carolina, no doubt. But if South Carolina has a lead or is tied at the half, Vanderbilt's energy against Notre Dame will be drained out. I think the Notre Dame game will be hit early in the third quarter. They'll start to feel it.
I think there is no reason why South Carolina cannot win its next 3 games. I really think that they can get to 4-1.
All right, let's get to your phone calls. We're going to open things up and hear from you. You've heard from us. Hear from you, 800-956-7266. We go to Kevin in Charleston. First up tonight on Sports Talk. Hello, Kevin.
Hey, Ken, how are you guys?
We're good. How are you?
Thank you. I just wanted to chime in. I just enjoyed the program. I don't get many times to call in the radio down here since we left the SoCom, but just wanted to give a shout out to my Eagles. I know I got the squad, which is what we wanted. I really wanted 20-some points, but with the best 4 in college football up front, maybe the best 7 in all of football, I was proud of our boys. We came out there and we did what we could, even though we had our nose tackle taking the ball most of the time.
That was funny.
He was the best running back on the field.
It's what you got to do sometimes, but I was just really impressed with our boys and the way they came out there and played their hearts out. And we got some pressure to the quarterback. I know we took out number 2. Unfortunately, don't like to see anybody hurt, but then we were getting some pressure. And, up until the second quarter, we were so I just know that we got to hang tight with those boys and boys, and now we got our name out there, and Clemson swooped in the spot, but I think that they'll be A-okay when they get going in the future. I was just really proud of my boys, and I got to go up there and experience that venue, and I'm excited from where we came from. But 2 wins last season, we're going to march up, so only up and up from here on out.
All right, thank you. Appreciate the phone call. Yeah, look, Georgia Southern in their league might do some damage. I was impressed a little bit with Shea Wirtz. I mean, he just didn't have a whole lot of room to run. Clemson's defense is just so all-consuming. They just close in on you because they're so fast. And, they weren't really challenged in the passing game, so there wasn't a whole bunch of worry there. They just played the run, and they just played it so well, and they just were too strong and too fast up front for Georgia Southern.
Still concerned about what they're going to face when they see a legitimate quarterback. They might not see a legitimate quarterback until South Carolina week.
Well, I mean, I disagree. I mean, they're going to see a very good option quarterback this week in Tech, but they lack in other areas.
Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Setting up the week for you. We're going to talk to Zach Willis. 1st and 10 with Zach Willis. We only have one game to talk about, so we get 10 minutes with him. That'll be part of our second hour. Also, Mick Mixon on an uneven day for the Carolina Panthers. We'll talk to him in our second hour as well. Tomorrow is a Talking Tuesday, so Colin will be at Clemson to preview the game against Georgia Tech. I will be at South Carolina to preview the game at Vanderbilt. Your phone calls also welcome, continuing at 800-956-7266.
Yeah, when we get to Mick, by the way, I'm going to have to take a moment of that segment just to share a complaint that I have about the National Football League after yesterday. I'm not going to mention it now. I'll save it for later on.
I have a feeling, I don't know if you saw this too, they are selling, the Panthers are, at least they've partnered up with this group that's trying to do disaster relief fund deliveries. This Carolinas T-shirt, it looks kind of snazzy.
Yeah, it's very nice of the Panthers to reach out and do something like that because, I mean, that's what an organization that represents the Carolinas should do in this time of need.
Are you try to be a little?
No, I'm congratulating them. No, absolutely not. I think it's great.
I think we should get some, all three of us.
All right, 800-956-7266. They want to send some to us. We'll take them. Let's go to Seth.
It's a charity T-shirt. They're not going to send us freebies for something for charity.
Let's go to Seth in West Columbia. I want to get the calls rolling again here on Sports Talk. Seth, welcome into Sports Talk on a Monday night. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Good. I'm a Clemson fan, lifelong. I just want to say we suck. Our offensive line is they're playing kind of, I don't know, just garbage is maybe not the best term for it, but their technique just seems to be lacking.
No, wait a minute. Are you truly a Clemson fan saying this, or are you just, like playing with us here? Are you toying with us, or are you being serious?
No, definitely a diehard Clemson fan. I bleed orange and a little bit of purple every now and then. So,
I got to give you a test. I don't believe you. I'm going to give you a test. All right.
Uh-oh.
Let me have the Clemson cadence count. Cadence. What do they call it? The cadence counts. Give me the cadence count.
Or just the cadence.
You ready? Let me hear it.
Yes. CLEMSON. Fight, Tigers, fight, Tigers, fight. Woo!
Okay. That's it. You sealed it with the woo.
Can we see your selfie stick, please?
No,
yeah, really.
No, but here's the question. You're watching the offensive line.
That's an inside joke, folks.
Do you think that is a byproduct of them trying to force the 2-quarterback system?
I think that is very possible. Yeah, because, two different styles of quarterbacks. Kelly Bryant's likely to take off running, whereas Trevor is going to try to, stand in the pocket and make a throw. So a lot of times the guys maybe aren't in the flow. And the one thing that gets me, too, is how they cycle guys in and out so much. It doesn't seem like they're getting enough rhythm going with the offensive line with the same 5 guys in there a lot. Because, we got second and third stringers in there, second and third drive of the game with, no really rhythm getting things going. I get you want to get your young guys experience, but I think that seems to be causing, like tip passes and stuff. Sometimes the timing seems to be off with the offensive line and the quarterbacks. And like you say, having 2 quarterbacks, I think, is really kind of throwing off their rhythm together because of how things are going with that.
Listen,
I do agree with that.
I'll say this about the way Clemson looks. The way Clemson looked against Furman and the way they looked against Georgia Southern, Dabo treats these non-conference games against teams that are not of Texas A&M's caliber, he treats them like a preseason game, I think. And I think that he thinks that this is something where he wants to get in a lot of guys. He wants to see different combinations on the offensive line and the defensive line. I mean, I could count on maybe 1 or maybe 2 hands the amount of times I saw the starting defensive 4 in there at the same time, because a lot of times you saw Albert Huggins in there, you saw Niles Pinckney in there on the defensive tackle, you saw Xavier Thomas playing on the defensive end. I mean, they want to see what they can use during the conference season. This is not, I mean, I know that you want to be cosmetic and you want to win by 50 and you want to hang 60 on Georgia Southern. Dabo's not going to play it like that.
Hey, Seth, you seem like a sporting kind of guy. Do you want to participate in our best or pest contest here from Terminex?
Sure.
All right. Hang on just a second. We're going to get you involved.
All right. Okay.
It's time for the Terminix Best Fan or Pest Fan of the Week. For over 70 years, Terminix has helped Carolina fans protect what they love about living in the South, from football Saturdays to Sunday brunch.
All right, that's Carolina fans, meaning like the state of South Carolina. It's open to all fans, Clemson, South Carolina, and others. And so what we have for you are 3 questions related to football this past weekend. You ready?
Yes, sir.
That's Clemson, Carolina stuff, so stand by. 2 of them you'll probably nail. Number 1, what career mark did Clemson running back Travis Etienne establish in the Georgia Southern game?
1,000 career rushing yards.
Ding,
Very
ding.
good. All right. Number 2, who had more touchdown passes in his first 3 games at Clemson, Deshaun Watson or Trevor Lawrence?
That would be Trevor Lawrence.
Ding, ding.
5-4. Number 3, USC did not play Saturday due to Hurricane Florence. What year was it the Gamecocks actually played a game in a hurricane, and what was the name of the hurricane?
The year, I believe, was 2000. And the hurricane, I cannot think of. I cannot remember the name.
Well, you're wrong on the year.
Okay.
So we're going to hold that for another caller.
No.
We're going to give him the answer.
You have to give him the answer.
Give me the answer. The year was 1999. Lou Holtz's first game at NC State, and it was Hurricane Floyd that was hammering the state of North Carolina, and they played that game in an unbelievable torrential downpour. It was Derek Watson's first game at South Carolina, too, I believe. I think the Gamecocks were shut out, I want to say 10-0. That was the year they didn't win a game. They went 0-11.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, sir. We appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
And for your correct
Thank you.
answers, we give you a pat on the head, and we wish you well.
Thank you very much.
That's the Terminix Best or Pest Fan, which we do every Monday here on Sports Talk.
So
here
pay
on South
attention
Carolina
when you're
Radio
at
Network.
the games, because you never know what questions you might get here on Sports Talk. Stephen in Charleston, you are up next. Thank you for your patience. Welcome into Sports Talk.
Hey, fellas.
Hey.
I haven't called in a long time. I heard y'all talking Clemson football, and it suckered me back in.
It's good to have you back.
Thank you, man. So I think Dabo referenced this a year or two ago. I can't remember exactly when it was, but it's gotten to the point, I think, where Clemson fans, unfortunately, like the previous caller, have gotten spoiled with what we've become now. I think we played so well, got into 3 straight, playoffs, all that other stuff, y'all know. And I just think it's funny that we win easily by 30, and they should have won by 36. Obviously, missed 2 field goals. And I think what has established Clemson as a program, not only from the recruiting standpoint, but in the depth standpoint, but the fact that by the time that players become starters in their second and sometimes third year, they've played so much game time because of the way Dabo rotates his players in and out, that's what sets them up for consistency going forward. And I saw an article written this weekend. They talked about it, where they talked about how, Dabo's never going to be Nick Saban, where he scores, 50 points in the first half. It's just not the way that they run their team, whether it be, keeping their starters out there too long in case of injury or, wanting to rotate their players in. Multiple reasons there, but I don't know. I just feel like some Clemson fans really have become overly spoiled by what they've become now.
It just dawned on me. God, it just dawned on me why Seth is pissed off.
Why?
He's obviously a gambler. He's taken Clemson 3 times, laying the points. He's 0 for 3. The Tigers are draining his bank account. They're winning.
They're not
but
covering.
They're draining his
0
bank
3
account.
against the spread.
Yeah.
But here's the difference.
Y'all nailed it.
Yeah.
I actually thought about betting that game myself, and it was funny because I thought about it, and I decided not to last minute.
Yeah.
And either of those 2 goals would have covered it, and they missed both of them.
The rule is do not take Clemson and lay the points right now.
Well, see, and he
They're
mentioned
16-point favorites at Georgia Tech, by the way.
he mentioned.
But I hate taking Tech.
He mentioned Nick Saban, but see, here's the problem with Nick Saban. Sometimes his best offense on the field is his defense.
Well,
his defense scores. That's why they're running up the score.
They
on
used
people.
to have to play like that in order to get themselves noticed, but they don't need to do that anymore.
But they still do it, though.
I'm
I'm talking about Clemson. I'm saying they don't have to
okay.
play like that.
I'm in a quandary about this Clemson Georgia Tech spread thing.
I am taking Clemson the rest of the year to cover.
These guys, they never sleep. Check them out on the web at SportsTalkSC.com. Now, more of Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network.
Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, as we continue here on a Monday. Your phone calls at 800-956-7266 continuing. Just a note that kind of goes back to the point we were talking about before the break. It was Jeff Scott, I believe, Clemson's co-offensive coordinator, who said that in the college football playoff era, Clemson has played more players in their games during the regular season than any school has played during the era, which again has only lasted a couple of seasons. But again, it stands to reason again why Clemson uses these games, and Dabo is very upfront to say, hey, we want to play a lot of guys in these types of games because of the fact that they need to fuel their depth.
Yeah, listen, when you got the players they've got, and when player B replaces player A, and there's not much of a drop off. Why wouldn't you play them?
And nowhere is that depth needing to be more fruitful or needing to be more replenished than on the offensive and defensive lines.
All right, a couple of quick notes. We'll be back to phone calls and recruiting. We're going to talk about Josiah James. We have got, of course, our 1st and 10 with Zach Willis coming up. Some comments from Clemson running back Travis Etienne, who set a career high with 162 rushing yards and went over 1,000 in his career. He's only played in 16 games, you know. And Mick Mixon, voice of the Panthers, talking about the Panthers game this past Sunday, a painful loss. But got some notes here real quick I want to pass along to you. The Clemson game for the 29th with Syracuse at home will be a noon kickoff on ABC.
ABC.
Same day, the USC kickoff at Kentucky, 7:30 on the ESPN on the SEC network on ESPN.
So 2 straight weeks, Clemson's on ABC, 2 straight weeks, and South Carolina's on the SEC network.
The Stats FCS ranking, Wofford does not drop. The Terriers stay at number 8.
Did you see that game?
Tough loss.
Oh, man.
Tough loss.
I saw the end of that game on, I think it was on the Stadium Network. Man, I was ugh.
North Dakota State 1, James Madison 2, South Dakota State 3, North Carolina A&T 4, and Kennesaw State is 5. Presbyterian announced today it's filled the spot on its schedule created when it had to cancel the game against Stetson with Lindsey Wilson College. Not Lindsey Nelson, not Owen Wilson.
I used to date a Lindsey.
Not Lindsey Graham College, Lindsey Wilson College, NAIA school in Kentucky, which is 3-0 on the season. They're going to play Thursday night, September 27th at Bailey Memorial. And the latest odds, college football playoff, Alabama now 19-10. That sounds really strong in their favor when the odds are 19-10.
How's that pay out?
Clemson is 5-1. Ohio State is 13-2, though Urban Meyer says he never read that or text that. And Georgia 15-2. The Heisman odds, Tua Tagovailoa 3-2, Will Grier 13-2, and further down the list, Trevor Lawrence is 40-1, and Kelly Bryant is I think he's 50-1. Didn't show up in my print here. I think he's 50-1. And of course, great race yesterday at Vegas. I think that was a great race. If NASCAR can't benefit from racing like that, then I don't know what you can do. And we'll talk with Kerry Tharp and Monty Dutton later in the week. Thought that was a tremendous race in Las Vegas. So first round of the playoff, first race of the playoff, and Martin Truex Jr. is the leader now by 2 points over Kyle Busch. Brett Keselowski, who's won 3 in a row, is 18 points back in the 3rd spot. And they move next to Richmond this weekend, and then to the new oval, the new road course, I guess you'd say, the Roval. They're calling it a Roval at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Looking forward to that. All right, back to the phones we go, 800-956-7266. Lenny in Hampton. Lenny, how are you? Did you guys get a lot of flooding down your way?
No, it wasn't too bad. A little bit of wind here and there and misty. It wasn't bad.
Good.
I did get to watch, since Carolina wasn't playing, I got to watch Clemson. And I watched a couple other ACC games. And the ACC, I wonder if that schedule is going to hurt Clemson in the long run, especially if they end up slipping like they have in the past. But I also wanted to tell you that yesterday I watched my Vikings give your team everything they wanted, and we should have won. We don't have a kicker. We don't have a kicker.
You do know.
Aaron Rodgers was scared.
No, it should not have even come down to that. See, I was saving this for later in the show.
Well,
but
that's
since you brought it up,
that's
you
because
know
you're
it
worried
shouldn't have
about
come
Clay
down to
Matthews'
that.
bad hit.
Oh, bad hit.
What's that?
What do you want to do? You want to go up and just tap him on the shoulder and say, "Tag, you're it"? I mean,
the ref threw the flag. The ref threw the flag,
and it was a horrible call. Look, he admitted that the hit in the Chicago game that did the same thing was the correct call, but my God, he got to the quarterback at the same time he threw the football. He put his shoulder into his waist, put his head around the side. He let him down gently. He did not pile drive him. I don't know what else you want him to do. Put him in dresses and play powder puff. My goodness.
Are you okay? Are you okay over there?
Yeah, he's okay.
We are 2-0 in my mind.
No, the thing about
that's a 1-0-1.
You're tied with us in the division.
If you're Clay Matthews, here's the problem. You start to get a reputation. I almost think when you looked at that game, that referee went for the flag. Oh, yeah, because it's Clay Matthews.
It's a joke. Listen, and thank you for your phone call. I was going to say nice things about the NFL today, but after a win. But, I really thought in watching the Packers game that I could see the impact of the new rules. I thought, defensive guys are really trying to keep their heads up, tackle the right way, except for the hit on Cam Newton, of course, which was atrocious.
Yes, that was bad.
But you're going to have that occasional situation. But by and large, I thought that they were trying to do it the right way. And then you come and do that as an official. And then you try to cover your backside by saying he picked him up and he drove him into the turf. Are you kidding me? Give me a freaking break. Go back and referee in junior college, because that was a junior college call with a junior college excuse.
Actually, the key point is this. Put a stuffed dummy in your backyard and hit it square till you bring the dummy to the ground, and see if you can stay on both your feet while that's happening.
Well, I mean, listening to the national people on television talk about it, and I think they're exactly right. In fact, I think Scott Van Pelt nailed it on his show last night. I mean, you can't stop your weight. You can't stop gravity. And when you run in to tackle somebody, your weight and your momentum is going to take you to the ground. It's going to take you a certain way. The NFL cannot eliminate that from tackling.
There's two separate issues. Number one, the NFL needs to do something in order to satisfy the very many lawsuits it is in with retired players and people involving head injuries. And number two, they have never been very good at wording and enforcing new rules. See the NFL catch rule over the last couple of seasons. And while they've tried everything to try and make that rule better, they still don't know how to basically adjudicate jurisprudence on that rule. And this rule is the latest example of the fact that they can't get themselves out of their own way, because they're trying to keep the players safe, but in reality, they're taking some of the most fundamentally sound plays out of the game.
Yeah, and the inconsistency in the calls is what drives the players and the fans
crazy. Is odd.
It's like a strike zone in baseball. I mean, give me consistency in balls and strikes. Give me consistency in how you're going to call the quarterback, the late hit on the quarterback.
And I used to think that getting full-time officials, which they now have, they have 20 full-time officials now. I used to think that would be something that would fix it. Still hasn't.
No, the game is too quick. The only solution I have for that is, if you don't want your quarterback hit like that, block.
Well,
block.
I mean, come on. You're going to get rushing defensive ends and linebackers and blitzes hitting your quarterback. But let's have some common sense about this thing. Go back and look at that play 100 times. You cannot show me in 100 times how he did anything illegal in tackling the quarterback, because he got there the same time the quarterback released the ball. It could not be a late hit on the quarterback or a personal foul.
I didn't mind it because it made you angry. So
very angry. And I stayed up till midnight to watch it on tape to find out what happened.
Round 2 of Sports Talk up next with your hosts Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. Don't leave us hanging. Join the show, 800-956-7266.
And we are back. It is Sports Talk on a very busy Monday night. Glad you're with us wherever you are dialed in around the great state of South Carolina. And we do have a great state. People coming to people's need throughout this emergency time in our state. And you got to be proud of what the people of South Carolina are doing to help one another out. We hope everybody is doing okay and will get better and better every day and can get your minds back on the important things like blocking and tackling and when to hit a quarterback and when to two-hand touch him and when to pull the flag and not dirty up his dress and things of that nature. That they've made football in the NFL today to be like. 800-956-7266 is our email. Is our phone number. Our email is talkback@sportstalksc.com and on Twitter @sportstalksc. Our poll question on our website, sportstalksc.com. Take a gander at that and participate. What grade do you give USC's Brian McClendon after 3 games as offensive coordinator? Don't forget he was the coordinator for the bowl game. That's why it's 3 games. 2 this year, 1 in the bowl game. I know it's a small sampling, but I thought it was a good question. And so far, the results are that there we go. Most people who have voted, 44% give him a C, which is sort of
average.
Don't know enough. Show me some more. 24% give him a B. 18% give him an F. So I think they want to see a little more explosion. One thing the Gamecocks have not had, one thing that Clemson has had that Dabo Swinney is proud of, the explosive nature of their attack. What Clemson had 18, I think it was, 16 explosive plays, chunk plays as they call them, against Georgia Southern. They've had like, 40 on the season, some big number like that. Just the ability to strike quickly and strike deep. South Carolina has not done that, did not really attempt to strike deep against Georgia.
Here's the question I have about that. If I had the tackles and ends that Clemson have, I would have more explosive plays. But I'm not going to go to all this explosive plays, go 3 and out, and put my small defensive line back on the field. That's one of the keys you got to watch out for when you do that.
A couple of answers on our Twitter at SportsTalkSC. Dr. Sterling Harris says A-. Flowbird USC says B-. Michael Cavalier says B. Scott and SC Selected and Jackie Hunter all say B. Stacy has an answer. He says, I give him a B+ considering he does not have a quarterback to work with and a running back coach that is more concerned about being a cheerleader for Jake Bentley than coaching his players. Once those 2 are gone, I think he would be an excellent coach. This is somebody who obviously does not prefer the Bentley clan. I think that's a little misguided.
Kind of
harsh.
harsh.
Someone who dropped the course.
Cannot blame what's going on at South Carolina. I mean, look, they are 1-1. It's not like they're 0-2, and they have played 2 FBS teams, but these next couple of games will be huge for South Carolina and will certainly determine their fate for this for this season, just how good this season is going to be. Let's get back to your phone calls. Folks are waiting, 800-956-7266. It's Charles in Charleston. Next with us here on Sports Talk. Hello, sir. How are you?
How are you guys doing?
Good.
Good. Real quick, before the season started, I looked at the Gamecock schedule. I saw Kentucky, Vanderbilt, and Texas A&M, and I'm thinking, hey, easy wins, no problem. But after watching Vanderbilt on Saturday and Kentucky and Texas A&M, I think those games are going to be a little tougher than I expected. And I'm hoping they can win all 3, but I don't know. I'm not doubting them, but those guys, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, and Texas A&M, they're playing much better than I thought they would. So I'll just take the comments off to here.
There's no reason in my mind South Carolina can't go at least 2-2, if not 3-1 over the next 4 games.
Got to beat Vanderbilt because it's Vanderbilt. And I know with Shermer, the quarterback, his dad's the head coach of the Giants. For those of you who didn't realize that. He's a good thrower. They have an excellent receiver at 11 catches against Notre Dame. Their defense has always been pretty stout under Mason. He is a defensive stalwart, and he's brought in somebody else to run the defense and call the defense and take that off of him this year. They do have one of the better safeties in the league in Wiley. Now, South Carolina, there should be no excuse on emotion and effort against Vanderbilt. They've had extra time to get ready. They should be hungry. You know, Vandy's got to get over losing a tough one on the road at Notre Dame and coming back home to Vandy.
Yeah.
Where, you know, there's going to be a lot of Gamecock fans here. Gamecock fans love to make this trip to Nashville.
I love.
I wouldn't be surprised if there weren't 10 or 12,000 Gamecock fans mixed in there among the 25,000 Vandy fans.
And I know people talk about explosive plays, Will, but here's the key to Vandy. One of the keys to Vandy, which is South Carolina's been successful with Sherman quarterback. When South Carolina's running game is going well, Sherman's on the sideline standing there. He never gets a rhythm. And that's the key to beating Vanderbilt, is not only scoring points, but making sure that Vanderbilt doesn't see the ball that often so Sherman can get into a rhythm.
I'll say this. You don't beat Vanderbilt, you're not going to a bowl.
Yeah.
So,
well, you might go to a bowl, but
no,
it's not going to be one you want to go to.
Let's say,
if you lose to Vanderbilt, make your reservations for Shreveport.
Let's say if you don't beat Vanderbilt, you're going to have to.
And you deserve Shreveport.
You're going to have to schedule that 12th game. That's what I'm saying.
Taking a look at Jake Bentley, going back to that comment, looking at some of the things he's done and comparing him nationally to other quarterbacks and in the SEC. He is 32nd in the country in passing yards per game and 4th in the SEC. That's not bad. However, in passing yards per completion, and this goes back to big plays, he's 99th nationally and 12th in the SEC.
Everything is underneath.
Exactly. They have got to figure out a way
to air it out,
stretch their passing game some.
Air it out.
That'll help open up the running game. Will it not? I mean, even somebody with a miniature football mind,
but here's the problem: they can't protect well enough to give him time to throw those deep routes.
No, they can. I'm telling you, they protected fine against Georgia. They had a nice pocket for him against Georgia. Now, maybe the receivers couldn't get open, or maybe they didn't attempt to go deep, except that one 44-yard pass when the game was out of hand. Went for the touchdown. I thought the protection was fine.
Here's the big play you have that's afforded to you. It's in the middle of the field to Casey Crosby. In the middle of the field, because everybody is swinging their coverage toward Debo, and then you cover the other wide out. That seam right down the middle.
Well, here's the
where it is.
And here's the other part of this too. They're selling out and basically daring you to throw because they know you can't run.
Sacks allowed.
Or won't.
Sacks allowed through 2 games. USC is 21st in the country, 4th in the SEC at 1 per game. So not bad. I mean, he's getting protection. But they have got to start dialing up the deep ball. But you don't want to just throw it to air. Somebody's got to be down there to catch it. Shi Smith, and I know Steve Tannehill will hammer this. Shi Smith has got speed. Cut that dude loose. Let him run some deep patterns.
But what about using the tight end, Steve? Sorry, I had to.
We'll ask Zach about that when we have him coming up. Quickly, let's go to Tiger Bryan in Lancaster. Tiger Bryan, you okay? You make it through the storm okay?
Yeah, man. We had about 10 inches of rain up here in Lancaster, but, we all right. Y'all all right?
We hanging.
We're good. It's Columbia. Nothing can hurt Columbia short of Sherman.
Oh, no. The only thing that hurts Columbia is when the Clemson Tigers come down there and spike that tail.
That's, Sherman and the Clemson Tigers is about the only thing that can hurt Columbia. You're right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Too soon.
I got to take up old Jake Bentley now. You got to think about it, Cornblue. That youngin come in down there at Columbia. He was supposed to be a senior in high school. 17, 18-year-old coming there and started playing and took a beating. He is a good quarterback, but he don't have the. He's got 1 or 2 receivers, 2 or 3 receivers, but the line. You know what those saying is? Games are win in the trenches. He don't have the trenches, he is a good quarterback. He's got a quick release. Consider him young as he come in, and I respect the guy.
Yeah, he took a beating. You're right. I don't remember the number, but I can remember going back and adding up the sacks that he endured in the half a season that he played, and it was a lot. But the line has come a long way. The problem is not pass blocking. The problem is moving forward blocking in the running game, but I still think you got to make defenses back up.
Well, I think also part of the problem is he's seeing ghosts from a year ago, and he's not necessarily feeling that the protection is as good as it actually is.
This is the place to talk Tigers, Gamecocks, and more. Sports talk across the state on the South Carolina Radio Network.
It is my favorite time of the week, Corn, because it is time to go 1st and 10. We need to get the old.
I am not happy with Zach Willis.
We need to do we need to give the old red cash in first down.
Yeah. First and 10 with Zach. But Zach, I am not happy with you. I'm sorry.
Why not?
Because in 2010, you helped to develop Kirk Cousins. And Kirk Cousins threw for almost 500 yards.
Or Cousins.
Kirk Cousins. Mm-hmm. His cousin, Kirk Cousins, threw for 500 yards almost against my Packers yesterday. I'm not happy about that.
Well, I don't raise them to lay down, Phil. If you wanted me to train a pit bull to go in there and fight it out Michael Vick style, pardon political incorrectness, you want him just to lay down and take it, would you?
No.
I mean,
when they're playing the Packers, absolutely, I'd vote for that.
You don't want to win cheap, man. I know you're a Yankees fan too. We don't want to lay down. We want to win it outright.
Well, we should have won yesterday's game. We were robbed. We were robbed. You know we were robbed.
Well, on what part? Tell me what part you were robbed on.
Well, you didn't watch it. You must not have seen it. But you know we win the game because he throws an interception on a kind of a Hail Mary throw on 4th down. It's intercepted, but then they called Clay Matthews for roughing the passer when he tackled him instantaneously as he was releasing the football. One of those new NFL rulings.
Church ball.
No. I'm just mad at him because he's with the Vikings now. I mean, but I'm madder at the NFL, and I'm madder at the. But it all started with you developing Kirk Cousins into a great quarterback when you're at Michigan State.
Well, I can't take complete credit for that. You've seen too much about what he said about me in private. But anyway, I will say this. He's got 83 million reasons to be a Viking, and I can't blame you for that.
To the in-state stuff, what were your thoughts about the way Clemson looked against Georgia Southern?
I mean, I thought they came out flat. The thing about it is somehow or another, though, they end up winning 38-7. And it's just there was 3 phases, and we need to break it down into those 3 phases, I think, to really get a great idea of what happened there. Offensively, they were flat. They didn't look great. They were very simple. They kept it simple. When they know they're better than you are, they're not going to show you a whole lot. They're going to reduce their chances for errors, reduce that margin of error, and be conservative. I told Phil, and I'll say this, I'll say it again, they're probably the most conservative spread offense I've ever seen philosophically speaking. Mm-hmm. And I say that in a good way. Now, special teams and missed 2 easy field goals is really uncharacteristic of their kicker. Defensively, they were great. They were just as good as they always are. They leaned on that defense the championship program done, and they just wore down Georgia Southern. It was very systematic. It was very direct. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't real entertaining at times, but it definitely was a solid performance overall with some offensive improvements needed. But then again, we didn't see their whole playbook, I don't believe, either.
Yeah. Defensively, I thought that, of course, they were overmatching Georgia Southern talent-wise, but technique-wise, I thought they played that option game extremely well. I thought their ends held their positions, and really they took away the pitch man for the most part from Georgia Southern's attack. Did you see it that way?
I did. And here's where the genius of Dabo Sweeney and Dan Radakovich and that whole athletic department, their scheduling. Guess who they got next? Another option team, Georgia Tech in Atlanta. So this was a warm-up for them. And you just have to, when you see smart moves like that, you got to call them. And we call the bad stuff, but I'm thinking, wow, you couldn't ask for a better warm-up than Georgia Southern to go play Georgia Tech. And Georgia Tech didn't have a great Saturday, but we all know they're capable of beating anybody at any time because you have to play assignment football to defend the option. And a lot of times really talented teams don't want to do that. Clemson is the exception.
All right, so Bryant goes down, Kelly Bryant, second quarter, doesn't come back, and it's Trevor Lawrence's game for the most part to put him away. How did you think he handled himself and ran the offense in that particular setting? I know he had, some deep balls, and Ross made a great catch and run, but how about the way Lawrence was just sort of trying to manage the game there? What did you see?
I thought solid. I would probably give him a B-. Nothing incredibly great. against an outmatched opponent. But then he made a couple of throws in there too where you're just like, wow. Especially post cuts over the middle against two high safeties for those football aficionados out there. As soon as they make their turn, the ball's on them. I mean, he's got an NFL arm now. You usually go the long routes and deep routes. College quarterbacks kind of float them in. This kid throws them on a rope, and they're sitting there waiting as soon as the receiver turns around. He's very impressive throwing the ball and better than I thought in the running game.
When you look at Clemson playing the option attack, isn't it still the key, though, is what we don't look at because it's deep in the trenches? Looks like that immediate penetration from the tackles really just throws the timing off right before the play even begins.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think you obviously are well named. That is that you've got to stop the dive. If you don't stop the dive when you defend option football, your goose is cooked. And years ago, I watched the Citadel in my college days run up and down the field in Arkansas and South Carolina. They had to come play us at Furman. They beat both of those teams, and we shut them down because we stopped the dive play. And that was talented as those other two teams were, far more talented than we were. They never did that, and they paid a very high price. Clemson's disciplined. They're talented, but their tackles penetrated, but they get over-penetrate, and they hit that fullback every single time. I don't know of a time where the dive really hurt them. I'm sure there was one or two I missed, but very effective at doing that program. Very good observation on your part.
The only time the dive hurt him was when they had that 300-pound hunk of you-know-what coming through the middle. That was the only time it hurt him. But I don't know if we've had it necessarily on our show, but I have seen some Clemson fans, Zach, be a tad, I don't want to say impatient, but maybe thinking that they should have won this game by more and they should be more impressive through the 3 games. I kind of think like you do that they have intentionally held back a lot because in my mind, they view games like this one and Furman as opportunities to really showcase their depth and showcase other lineups. How do you feel about how they've treated these first 3?
Well, I mean, Will, I think, you're on the mark there. And more than showcase it is develop their depth and reward kids with playing time who deserve it, that probably aren't going to get to play a lot against the Georgia Techs and the Florida States and the South Carolinas. But down the road, they're going to need these guys. Or if somebody gets hurt, they're going to need these guys. And they're also resting those starters, those guys they can't replace. They're taking carries away now from a few of them, maybe a few reps on that D-line taking them away. But that's less of an opportunity to get injured, faster recovery, just overall benefits the team. They played a ton of guys and did it early on in that ball game.
We are visiting with Zach Willis, 1st and 10 with Zach Willis here on this Monday. Let's talk Gamecocks, even though they didn't play this past weekend. Vanderbilt did and played a close game up at Notre Dame, falling behind at the half. I think it was 13-0. Came back in the second half, got a good quarterback receiver combination. They seem to have an identity on what they're trying to do with their offense. They've always been pretty good on defense under Derek Mason. What does South Carolina need to do better in their 3rd game that you didn't see in the first 2?
I think it really starts out with their offensive and defensive line. And really, we don't have a true gauge. I felt like they got pushed around even a little bit by Coastal, especially in the run game at times. They got outplayed. Now, again, we could go back to the fact the score was out of hand and, that the kids weren't playing their A game. Then they go play Georgia, who is definitely at least number 3 in the country. They're dominating everybody. So to be fair and honest about it and analyze it correctly, the Vanderbilt game is really going to be a true measure of where this team is and can they improve on 9 wins or match 9 wins or even come close. We'll know a lot in Nashville on Saturday because they played extreme.
All right, hang on, Zach. Going to hit a break. I want to come back to you for a couple more comments on the Gamecocks. And I want to talk about what we were talking about earlier, Jake Bentley, deep balls, and how do you get a deep passing game, an effective deep passing game going, and what that would mean for the running game if you get a deep passing game going. We'll discuss that with Zach. We've got recruiting coming up, more of your calls, and, of course, a visit with the voice of the Panthers, Mick Mixon, here on Sports Talk.
Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network. We're brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union. Relax at Founders Federal Credit Union. It's all about you when it comes to your financial needs. Founders always thinks member and takes great pride in offering its members the most innovative products and services. Go to relaxjoinfounders.com to see if you qualify for membership. We're visiting continually here with Zach Willis, First and 10 here on Sports Talk. This is something that kind of Corn and I have been talking about, Zach, with regards to Jake Bentley and execution of the offense and being able to go deep. Corn seems to think that the passing, the pass protection for South Carolina has been adequate. I know when you and I talked after the Georgia game, you seemed to really downgrade the offensive line. Who's right in South Carolina's inability, it seems, to be able to go deep?
Well, I think the key here is you got to remember who they played. And, you know, hindsight, looking back on it, rewatching that, Georgia's talent level is superior. You know, they're going to face it again when they play Clemson. I don't think they'll be facing Alabama anytime soon. But those are the teams that can make you look really bad when maybe you're not so bad after all. You know, I thought early in the Georgia game, they looked solid, and then the leakage started when they got tired. And Georgia's depth took over. But honestly, I think against Vanderbilt, again, we know they've got the receivers and the quarterback have a fantastic passing attack. The offensive line and the running backs have to protect well, and the scheme's got to be to which if they'll leave the tackle locked on the end and not send a running back to block a great defensive end, Vanderbilt's got a couple pretty good pass rushers from what I saw the other night. I think they'll have a chance to go deep on Vanderbilt. I really do.
What would that mean for the running game if you can hit some 20-yarder, 30-yarders and make that defense back up? Should that not open up some lanes for your running game and make it easier for your line?
Absolutely.
Even if you take shots down the field and maybe not connect all the time, but if you take shots and they have to respect it, don't you think that opens it up?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, my rule of thumb was at least 10 deep balls a game. And, of course, I was privileged to coach people like Tom Zimmerman and Derek Higgins. And at Michigan State, we had a ton of people there in different places I've been. But you've always got to have a deep threat. South Carolina's got 3 legit deep threats on their receiving core that I know of, and probably more that I don't. They've recruited pretty well there from what I see. And they've got a great quarterback. So if they hit those or if they come close and back Vanderbilt off, and the best way to do it is play action, because now you kind of paralyze Vanderbilt's defense and give yourself a real chance to open that running game up. And we know they've got solid running backs too. I mean, everything's there for them to beat Vanderbilt, I believe. It's just a matter of execution. I think they should win this ball game.
Zach, we thank you, my friend. Enjoy your week. We'll get you next week. First and 10, you'll be talking about Clemson, Georgia Tech, and USC Vandy. Look forward to it.
I'll tell Kurt, take it easy on y'all next time, Phil.
Oh, we're getting his butt next time.
Oh, not in that
He's
dome.
going down. He's going down hard.
In that dome.
The one thing that Zach does say that I agree with is that South Carolina could not have played 2 more diametrically opposite teams in its first 2 games.
Yeah, I mean, he's playing a middle of the road FBS team right now in Coastal Carolina in terms of its league and kind of where it is. You okay?
Middle?
You think less than middle?
Perhaps.
Well, you beat UAB, and
what's UAB?
Well, that's a good win for them. They go. I mean, I think
you're overrating Coastal a little bit.
I'm trying to give them a benefit of the doubt.
I know you are. I know you like Joe. I like Joe too, but they got a long way to go.
That game is more about Georgia in this case. When South Carolina made those 2 big mistakes, didn't score an interception, Georgia just got in their mind, look, guys, here's the work we got to do. We're going to go home. We're going to win this game. We're going to dominate the second half because this team doesn't want it. You know, it's the difference between what Clemson saw with Texas A&M. Wait a minute, guys. Hold it. This team isn't making any mistakes, and they act like they want it. We're going to have to –
Yeah, but Carolina wanted that game against Georgia.
Yeah, but they were making too many mistakes, though. They weren't executing.
Well, I mean, on defense in particular, their tackling was terrible. And then, you know, whatever reason, the second half, they had a really good second quarter offensively. Ran a lot of plays in the first half. In the second half, they just couldn't block Georgia. I don't know what changed. You know, maybe giving up that early touchdown Well, maybe so. Maybe depth fatigue. I don't know.
After the interception, you had a chance to get it to 14-10 or 14-14.
Oh, they missed some opportunities,
and they didn't score. Yeah.
All right, to recruiting, and the big story, of course, is Josiah James of Portugal took his official to Clemson over the weekend. His coach, John Pearson, tells us he will announce on Wednesday morning at the school at 10:30. And James also visited Tennessee officially and Duke unofficially. He was scheduled for an official to Duke on the 27th, but that's not going to happen. And according to Coach, he said he believes that James is set on where he wants to go. Quote, "I believe so. If they are doing this, I'm fairly certain it has come to a head. I think he's pretty much done."
You know, the crystal balls went all the way from Duke, about 88%, all the way to about Clemson, 60-40 now.
Well, it makes sense to think Clemson coming off the visit. Then again, you know,
broken glass between here and Durham, I would say.
Well, there could be. We all thought it would be Clemson for Zion Williamson, and look what happened.
Who knows?
Anyway, Brad Brownell had his in-home visit with the family last week, and the staff got the final face-to-face meeting over the weekend. It all went well. Pearson said the official visit was great, and the kids saw everything he needed to see and learned everything he needed to learn. So Clemson has done a good job with their presentation there, and they stand to be in a very good place with him right now. So it would seem to be. This would be a huge recruiting win for Brownell to win one out over Rick Barnes and Mike Krzyzewski if he can make it happen. Meantime, also at Clemson Saturday was 6'9" P.J. Hall of Dorman, probably the #1 prospect in the state in the 2020 class, another national top recruit, and he got to watch the Tigers practice and visit with Brad Brownell before he went over the football game, and said the things they've laid out for him he likes to hear, such as the fact that by the time he gets there, there's going to be a lot of room for a big guy like him to play. He likes how they use stretch forwards like him that can shoot the ball and handle the ball a little bit. So he likes what Clemson has to offer. He also went to USC for the Georgia game. And again, like at Clemson, he watched the Gamecocks practice some. He talked to Frank Martin. Then he went to the football game, and he likes Frank Martin. He likes how he runs the offense through the post inside out, which is something he really likes. And he's also been to Florida. He'll visit Georgia for a practice and a football game on the 29th. He's expecting USC, Clemson, Stanford, Florida, and Tennessee to come by his school soon. The College of Charleston and South Florida have been in, and he said there are no favorites yet. Wants to make a decision around the end of his AAU season next year, if not before his AAU season. 6'2" Jalen Gaffney of Columbus, New Jersey, has set officials to Connecticut this weekend. Xavier on the 29th, Clemson October 12th, St. John's October 19th. This according to Adam Zagoria. He has eliminated Florida and Pitt. 6'1" Trey Jackson of Blythewood was scheduled for Florida Gulf Coast this past weekend, did not make that trip. He is scheduled for Iowa State this weekend. Been to Murray State and Winthrop. He also has a USC offer. Football, Clemson offered 2020 safety Bryson Washington of Houston. He has listed a top 10 of Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Alabama, Texas, LSU, Ohio State, Georgia, Florida State, Oregon, and UCLA. Clemson also offered 2021 defensive back Tony Grimes of Virginia Beach. Offensive lineman Ja'Kai Clark of Loganville, Georgia, was at Clemson Saturday. He's a center and a former Auburn commitment. Offensive lineman Nick Pendley of Canton, Georgia, was also at Clemson Saturday. 2020 linebacker Ethan West of Moseley, Virginia, made an unofficial to Clemson Saturday. The Tigers have not yet offered, but he has many major offers. And 2020 offensive lineman Seth Williams of Statesville, North Carolina, visited Clemson on Saturday as well. There you go with the recruiting for tonight, and be sure to check it out on our website, SportsTalkSC.com, and on Twitter. Use the hashtag STRecruiting.
James would plug right in there with the departure of Shelton Mitchell and Marquise Reed and be, I would say, probably the #1 scoring option for Clemson next year if he ends up coming to Clemson.
But you see, he's not that kind of – he's a passer first.
Yeah,
he's a distributor. He's a 6'6" big point guard.
He's a combo guard, yeah.
Who loves – no, he's a point.
He's
not a combo.
They list him as a combo guard on a couple of the recruiting websites.
No, they're wrong. He's a point guard.
Here's the thing I see. And this is just one thing I see, because I think you're right. He's a point guard. But I can also see him stepping into the position that Dante Grantham had, being off on the wing. He still can, but still open up passing lanes he can see because of his height.
Well, he likes to distribute. That's his thing, according to his coach. He likes to be the guy that kind of runs the offense and makes the decisions about where the ball is going to go, and he's very good at doing that.
The NFL has spoken on your little Clay Matthews play.
Oh, good. They give him a raise?
Panthers go slot right, flanker left, one back. First and goal, the 3-yard line. Newton in the gun. Falcons wadded up defensively. The fake to McCaffrey, sidearm throw, end zone, touchdown. Good catch by Smith, and he drops to one knee in prayer right under the goalpost.
But it did not go well after that for the Panthers, who fall to the Atlanta Falcons. Big divisional game in Atlanta Corn, and 31-24 the final. The Panthers are 1-1. Their voice is on with us now.
The voice of the Panthers, Mick Mixon, and I know that you guys hate to lose to the Falcons. You know, big intra-divisional game down there, one that maybe you had a chance to pull out of the fire. Wasn't going to be the case this time.
No, there are so many storylines, Corn. Let's start with Atlanta's ability to run the ball. I mean, the Panthers had been very stout against the run for the last couple of seasons. Looked like this defense was going to be a similar mold, but Atlanta ran the ball. I mean, they had that component of their game, and that meant that the play action, that hard play action, the complementary plays to Atlanta's split zone scheme were tremendously effective. The Panthers did not get the pressure. They did not make Matt Ryan feel uncomfortable. In fact, Matt Ryan rushed for 2 touchdowns. First time in his career he's done that.
Mm-hmm.
Offensively, though, Cam Newton played very well. Some of his best work from a pocket in his career, but the receivers did not help him, Corn. The Demir Bird, Curtis Samuel absence was felt. The Greg Olsen absence was felt. And Newton had several passes, I mean, half a dozen that he put right there that could have been and should have been caught.
Well, but you probably hit it right on the head when you said they did not really affect Ryan. When you play an NFL game and the opposing quarterback only misses 5 passes, 23 of 28 for 272 and 4 touchdowns, that's not, you know, the Panther defense that you were feeling good about going into the game. They can't have that kind of deep performance.
True, and a shocking moment today at his press conference, I thought anyway, Coach Rivera used the word lazy to describe some components of his defensive effort against Atlanta. And he later clarified that to say that there were some individuals that seemed to be content with chasing the play, playing behind the play, as opposed to being in front of it and squaring the play up like he wants. You don't often hear a head coach, particularly a proud defensive coach like Coach Rivera, say that about his own defense, but he knows exactly what he's doing, and he tried to send a message to his team. I think he did.
Christian McCaffrey touched the ball 22 times, caught 14 passes on 15 targets, 102 yards receiving, 37 yards rushing. How much of this is due, do you think, Mick, to the new offensive coordinator, Norv Turner?
Probably some, but it's probably also due some to Atlanta's defense. Atlanta plays a good deal of single high safety, a middle close defense with an extra defender down. So this caused Newton to get rid of the ball more quickly, to go through his progressions, and then find McCaffrey often as an outlet on the play. And then there were some design throws that were supposed to go to McCaffrey, and they did. Any play that gets the ball into the hands of the 22 seems like a pretty good idea, though, whether it's on or off script.
Yeah.
Well, when you look at the Panthers defense, uncharacteristically to me was the tight end being open as much as he was in Hooper. Was that by design to just, you know, double up on Julio and play the other wideouts and maybe just leave the tight end? But why was the tight end, in your opinion, open so often for Atlanta?
It's a great question, and it's part of what Atlanta does offensively, is that you spend so much energy and so much attention on Julio Jones. Even if he's not double covered, you still have to roll defenses to him, keep an extra pair of eyes kind of on him, funnel to him if you can, an extra defender. And then so that when Ryan throws the ball to Sanu or Ridley or Hooper, it looks like they're running free. I mean, just wide open. It's you know, it's hard to give credit to Atlanta because this just in, we don't like them a lot, particularly after they headshot Panther quarterback Cam Newton. But you have to give them credit for their scheme. They did a good job.
All right. So tonight, Seattle, Chicago, when they play the national anthem, Mick, I'm not just taking a knee. I'm taking 2 knees to protest and beg the NFL to do something about the tackling of the quarterbacks in the process of throwing the football when the tackler is already there making his tackle by the rules and taking the quarterback to the turf, but yet drawing a flag that cost you a game, i.e. the Packers.
Surely,
and the NFL has the nerve to come out tonight and say it was a correct call. And not only was it a correct call, they want to use it as a training video for what a correct call in that situation is. Can you believe that? I'm taking 2 knees tonight.
Surely you must be talking about the Clay Matthews egregious late hit, unsportsmanlike hit on the quarterback.
Mick can't even say it with a straight face.
The Packers and the Saints have had some lucky moments, even in 2 games so far this year.
Yeah, but that wasn't luck yesterday. We had that game was stolen from us, Mick. Stolen.
Yeah, the Minnesota kicker that missed all those kicks, he stole it right away.
It shouldn't have even come down to that. My point is, what I'm trying to get to is, from your conversations with the folks on the defensive side, the players, I mean, and what you hear in the locker room, are they and the Packer play aside, just in general, do these guys kind of feel, how do they feel about the way the NFL is calling this play with the quarterbacks?
I think they're kind of in favor of it, really. It's hard on defenders. It's a hard reset button to hit. But these guys are united by the belief that their bodies are their temples. It's their earning vehicle that's only going to be able to earn income for a short period of time, and they want to play a long time. So I think I hadn't heard a lot of negative talk about trying to keep the quarterback clean.
Yeah,
I say, is it you're not feeling that the defensive players feel handcuffed in a way that they're darned if they do, darned if they don't?
No, because I think there's still rules that, and they're not the boys in the bubble. You can still sack the quarterback.
No, you can't.
Certainly with the Carolina Panthers case, we got better things to worry about around here than some ticky tack rule. We didn't even really get to Matt Ryan to hit him.
But you mentioned the one against Cam, which I thought was very egregious, and I think a good application of the new rule that allows for ejection for hits of that nature.
Yeah. Nobody's going to argue that one. That one was right.
Yeah, me too. Well, corn, whatever. This is what I've learned about Phil. If whatever he says is probably right, because he is, after all, Phil Kornblut.
That's right.
No, I think
should not be questioned.
If anything is ever a personal affront to Phil Kornblut, it will take a front seat on this program. That's what we learned
You
here.
don't cheat my teams. I'm sorry. You got to beat them straight up. You don't cheat them. We got cheated. Stolen. Game stolen.
The Bengals coming in. Man,
They're
slinging the ball around. That's going to be a tough game for them. We can't sleep on this club.
You got that right. You got your show tonight with the coach?
Yeah, we got Luke Kuechly, Ron Rivera, Torrey Smith, all lined up for the show.
Excellent. You have a great one. Thank you. And, I'm just going to sit back and wait for it to happen to the Panthers and hear what you have to say then.
All right, that's fair enough, pal.
It will happen. Thank you, my man. Appreciate you.
I don't think I've ever heard you that salty about anything.
Oh, you haven't been around long enough. I don't like it when my teams get ripped off. I can take a loss. I've taken many a bad loss like a man.
Uh-huh.
Well,
I just don't like when a win is taken right out of my hands. That's my money. Taking that money right out of my hands.
He's just mad that it's pro.
Well, no, the thing about the Panthers next week is they got Giovanni Bernard coming in. They thought they needed to stop the run against Atlanta. They better stop this guy because he's coming back home to North Carolina.
I'm actually worried about my team's next opponent, which they play in a short week Thursday. That might be the Browns' first win.
I've got Yom Kippur starting tomorrow night. I'm going to ask for atonement for the NFL officials over the next 24 hours.
Atone.
Have a good one. See you tomorrow.